camera I'm going to talk about today is a camera I have talked about before, but it has a slightly different lens than the one I mentioned before. And I'm talking about another Ensign, and it's an Ensign 1220, and it flips open here. And I'm going to talk about why this camera I think is slightly underrated and well worth using. So first of all, it has this very nice leather case, and I'm going to fold it up again and take it out of the case and demonstrate to you a few features. This was a camera which was made in the 1950s. It was made in about 1955, and Ensign were part of the Butcher photographic group, which sort of was a merger of several different companies. And there was a problem with lack of cameras after the war, and Howland and Butcher were and Ensign made a range of cameras from sort of moderate quality to some very high quality cameras. And this is a camera which I have used before, but as I said, it's got these nice slightly art deco tiers on the front which bring down the lens, and this one here is for shooting, but more about that later. To get into the camera you press this here, but there's a film in the camera so I won't open it now. We have a slider here to see the number. So film goes in and over to this rind here. What is fantastic about this camera, I think, is the lens. Now, you normally get something called a rust star, but this is an Expres. This is a Ross, let me check. Yes, it's an Expres 3.5. Now, f3.5 is quite a fast lens for this era of camera. You got a lot of lenses which were either 6.3 or 5.6. So 4.5 was actually quite fast. 3.5 was very fast for this type of camera at the time, believe it or not. I mean, nowadays we think of 2.8, well, we think about 1.4 as being the fast lens everyone wants. But these days, a 3.5 was a fast lens. By fast, I mean the reaction to light, how much light it lets into the camera. So, how we actually use one of these, okay. So as I said, to open it, we press this at the front, and you've got this very bright viewfinder, and this viewfinder actually has a little lens in to make it really bright. So we've got a bright viewfinder. We have to make sure that the struts are fully out. Yeah. We focus the lens here, it's in feet, and there is a handy red dot as a sort of average if we want to be, and it focuses to that point there. So, and we go from, I think we go from just under 5 feet to infinity here. So we have to set our focus. Now what I normally think about is that 5.5 feet, 6 feet is the average person. So I sort of think, well, is it one person, two person? So I can set 6 feet, 12 feet, etc. So because there's no rangefinder on this camera, and there's no actual slot for the rangefinder. So we have to focus. We have to set our shutter speed, and we can set from 1 second to 300 of a second. And then we have to set our aperture. Now, I would probably set my aperture by using the sunny 16 rule, which states if it's sunny, it's f16. And we go down from f16. So if it was slightly cloudy, f11, bit cloudy, f8, and dull 5.6 wherefore. So once we've done our focus, done our aperture with a shutter speed, we simply set the shutter here and the actual shutter button is here. So shutter, we set the shutter here, button here, and click. And that is all there is to it. But let's see how the camera actually performs when I put a film for it. So in order to test the camera, I went over to Wareham in Dorset, and it was a very pleasant Sunday afternoon, quite busy, and it started to be a little bit overcast, but the camera performs quite well. I say quite well. I was expecting the lens to be maybe a teeny bit sharper, but I think it is pretty sharp. I think sometimes the issue could be maybe a tiny bit of camera shake. I sometimes had it on 1/60th, but the definition was good, the focusing was good, the camera was very light proof. You're never quite sure with these cameras, which are now in many cases 60-70 years old, but I don't think this image is at all bad. In fact, I think it's quite good, the quality of the camera. I mean, it is all manual, you do have to think, but that is what I really like about these cameras, is that you do have to think, you have to look, you have to think, you have to imagine what the result is going to be like. It's not there in front of you, so you have to plan it. This is a great little shop called Pound and Co. It's Ironmongers. It's been there for a long time. It's always popular by the quay. I could have straightened this image. I rather like the way the seagulls sort of landed in the top left-hand corner of this photo. It's definitely a camera that I'm going to keep for a bit. As I said, the specials with the rangefinders are nice, but they are quite expensive. This at the moment seems to be a very undervalued camera. It's one you can get on eBay moderately cheaply. I picked one up recently, I think for only £12, and it was in really good working order. I just can't resist them when they are so cheap like that. So it's a camera I would recommend. It's a lens which, as I said, you find on a lot of English Ensigns, the better quality ones. I believe it was a coated lens. It certainly seems to cope with glare well. I used, I think this was actually FP4 for a change, but developed in ID11. I normally dilute my ID11 by 1:1 and develop at 10 minutes at 20 degrees. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.